Georgie and Mandy's first marriage is developing its misunderstood character better than Sheldon. When young Sheldon wrapped up, it left behind a unique challenge for its spin-off, Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage. How do you follow up a show built around one of television's most iconic geniuses? Instead of trying to recreate Sheldon Cooper's brand of quirky brilliance, the new series has chosen a completely different and arguably more grounded path. It focuses on Georgie Cooper, a character who is often misunderstood, underestimated, and overshadowed by his younger brother's intellect. Now, Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage is doing something remarkable. It's developing Georgie in ways The Big Bang Theory and young Sheldon never truly did for Sheldon himself. The show is giving depth to the Cooper sibling who always lived in the shadow of genius, and in doing so, it's telling a more emotionally resonant, human story about growth, responsibility, and identity. From punchline to person, Georgie's remarkable evolution. In The Big Bang Theory, Georgie was largely defined by his absence and others' perceptions of him. We heard snippets about his strained relationship with Sheldon, his work ethic running a tire store, and his role as the normal brother who stayed behind. It wasn't until Jerry O'Connell portrayed the adult Georgie that viewers got a sense of a man shaped by family tension and unresolved resentment. Young Sheldon filled in those blanks, transforming him from a comedic sidekick into a multidimensional teenager navigating the chaos of a family obsessed with Sheldon's intellect. Georgie, played by Montana Jordan, became a symbol of overlooked talent, someone street smart, emotionally intuitive, and quietly ambitious. Yet the series only scratched the surface of his adult transformation before it ended. That's where Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage steps in. Instead of keeping Georgie as a background player or comic relief, the spin-off makes him the emotional anchor. We see him as a young father, a husband trying to figure things out, and a man still learning from the wounds of his upbringing. This is the most attention Georgie has ever received, and the results are surprisingly rich. Why Georgie's story works better than Sheldon's? There's no denying Sheldon Cooper's cultural impact. Jim Parsons' portrayal defined a generation of sitcoms. His obsessive quirks, scientific brilliance, and emotional naivety were the core of The Big Bang Theory's success. But Sheldon's arc, while iconic, was also static by design. He rarely changed. His growth came in small, tightly controlled increments that protected his comedic formula. Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage, however, thrives on evolution. Georgie isn't a finished product. He's a work in progress. The series builds tension and humor not around his rigidity, but around his adaptability. Where Sheldon rejected emotional complexity, Georgie runs straight into it. He's impulsive, sentimental, and deeply human in ways Sheldon never could be. This dynamic allows First Marriage to tackle more mature themes than young Sheldon ever did. Parenthood, financial strain, and communication, these are real-world challenges that require emotional intelligence, not scientific logic. Georgie's story feels relatable because he's constantly learning through failure, not theory. While Sheldon's genius was a barrier between him and others, Georgie's flaws are what connect him to the audience. His mistakes don't make him less capable, they make him believable. Mandy's role in redefining Georgie. One of the most compelling aspects of Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage is how it uses Mandy to push Georgie's development forward. Played by Emily Osment, Mandy is no longer the slightly cynical older girlfriend from young Sheldon. She's a mother and partner navigating her own insecurities, dreams, and frustrations. Their dynamic is refreshing because it avoids the predictable sitcom trope of the nagging wife and clueless husband. Instead, Mandy and Georgie's relationship feels raw and evolving. They're not perfect, they argue, misunderstand each other, and often stumble through co-parenting, but there's a palpable sense of affection beneath it all. Through Mandy, Georgie is learning what emotional maturity actually looks like. She challenges him to grow up, not by belittling him, but by expecting him to rise to the occasion. He, in turn, pushes her to embrace spontaneity and forgiveness. Their partnership mirrors real early marriages, two imperfect people trying to build something lasting amid constant chaos. The beauty lies in how Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage treats that struggle as meaningful, not mundane. How the show expands the Cooper legacy. Young Sheldon was, at its core, about the making of a genius. Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage shifts that lens to the making of an adult. It's a coming-of-age story for someone who was supposed to have already come of age. What's fascinating is how the show weaves in the larger Cooper family dynamic without overshadowing Georgie and Mandy. Mary Cooper's continued presence keeps the emotional thread to young Sheldon alive. She's still dealing with grief and faith after George S.R.'s death. Missy's appearances add humor and contrast, showing how each sibling handles their shared trauma differently. But the biggest surprise is how First Marriage reframes George's influence. Even posthumously, his example and his flaws hang over Georgie's journey. In many ways, Georgie's attempts to be a better husband and father are quiet tributes to his dad's memory. Where young Sheldon made George Sr. a tragic figure, First Marriage uses him as a moral compass, a symbol of what not to repeat and what to cherish. By grounding Georgie's story in this emotional lineage, the show gives the Cooper family something the Big Bang Theory never did: generational continuity. It feels like we are watching history evolve, not just repeat. Comedy rooted in character, not gimmick. One of the boldest choices Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage makes is how it handles humor. While the Big Bang Theory relied on rapid-fire punchlines and young Sheldon leaned on narration and irony, this spin-off finds its laughs in lived-in absurdity. The comedy often comes from the small details: Georgie trying to fix a leaky faucet while holding a crying baby, or Mandy's sarcastic retorts when Georgie's optimism borders on delusion. It's slice-of-life humor that feels earned because it emerges from their personalities, not from exaggerated setups. Even supporting characters like Mary and Missy bring a nuanced comedic rhythm that balances warmth and exasperation. There's less focus on laugh tracks and more on authentic reactions, allowing the show to feel tonally modern without abandoning its young Sheldon roots. By grounding its humor in empathy, First Marriage achieves what the Big Bang Theory rarely could. It makes its characters funny because they're real, not in spite of it. Sheldon's shadow, and why Georgie deserves to step out of it. No matter how much time passes, the Cooper name will always be associated with Sheldon. But that's exactly why Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage feels so refreshing. It doesn't try to compete with the Sheldon legacy, it redefines it. Sheldon's brilliance made him extraordinary, but it also made him isolated. Georgie's ordinariness, by contrast, becomes his strength. He represents the side of the Cooper family that doesn't get headlines or Nobel Prizes, but keeps everything running nonetheless. His intelligence manifests through intuition, humor, and perseverance, qualities that might not impress a physicist, but they sustain families. In many ways, Georgie embodies the emotional intelligence Sheldon never developed. Where Sheldon dissected human behavior with logic, Georgie learns it through love. Where Sheldon sought validation through achievement, Georgie finds it through connection. This makes his story not only compelling but necessary. It reminds viewers that being the normal one doesn't mean being forgettable. It means being relatable. The promise of future seasons. If Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage continues on its current trajectory, it could become one of Chuck Lorre's most emotionally grounded series. Its early episodes have already proven that it can handle heartfelt drama and humor with equal finesse. But its greatest potential lies in exploring Georgie's ongoing transformation from a young man defined by his circumstances to one defining his own. There's room for deeper exploration of